This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. We're here at Jack Pool Plaza where a few hundred protesters are expected to show up in solidarity with the Parkland shooting victims. And today we're going to ask them what their thoughts are on gun control, both here in Canada and America as well. All right, so why don't you start by telling us what you're doing here today?
I am trying to help the Americans fix something that's been going wrong in their country for who knows how long. So I can remember Columbine, hearing about Columbine happening and just the horror of that and all the bowling for Columbine afterwards and Charlton Heston from My Cold Dead Hands and like heartless reactions.
Well, I'm an American living in Vancouver. There's more Americans living here in the city than any other city outside of the U.S. in the world. We all have family and children in our lives back home. So I feel like it's our responsibility and our duty to stand in solidarity with our countrymen. And the U.S. is a pretty messed up place. And I mean, there is gun violence all over the world, but the amount of shootings that we see in the U.S. is pretty unique to the States. And I think that the government is complicit in all of this, and their inaction is blood on their hands, essentially.
Even like just coming out here today is like it's really making a big difference, and like acknowledging like the problem. Yeah.
What would you say the problem is?
Well, in my opinion, I feel like maybe some like the gun control laws or that stuff.
Tell us about your sign. It says protect people, not guns, right?
Yeah. So basically, I just feel like today we should probably start thinking more about our people and the people around us instead of weapons. Yeah.
Did you know, have you ever heard that more people are actually protected with guns instead of without?
Yeah, I've heard of that too. And yeah, I get what they mean by that, but also, it's also used in it's sometimes used in the wrong way as well. So
in America, I heard in the news when the Parkland school shooting went off that you're 18 to get a rifle, but 21 to get a little handgun.
Have you ever heard of the stat that more violent crimes are committed with the handguns instead of the rifles?
No, but it's kind of harder to do so. I research a lot about this. I am a children's rights activist myself.
I don't believe there's any reason for an American citizen or a citizen of any civilized country to own an assault weapon like an AR-15. There are plenty of long guns that can be used for hunting, for target shooting. There's no reason you need to have the ability to take out mass crowds of people with a fully automatic weapon. These are indiscriminate weapons. There's no reason to have them, no reason at all.
AR-15's not fully automatic, is it?
It's a semi-automatic weapon. But you can still shoot off 100 rounds in a couple minutes by reloading a 30-round magazine. And you can also have 6 of them in a hotel room like happened in Las Vegas and take out 70 people in a crowd. It's ridiculous.
The original Founding Fathers' intent of the Second Amendment was to protect against government intrusion. So wouldn't people want to be able to match fire for fire?
But that's ridiculous as well. Particularly in the United States, where the police are armed with armored vehicles and they have fully automatic weapons. You're not going to take on any of those people with your weapon. All you're going to do is become a lone madman. And the insidious nature of this is the glorification of these kind of weapons, having to have superior firepower. It's just not necessary.
What does assault mean when it comes to guns?
I mean, it's a broad term. So like it's weapons of war, weapons that are used by soldiers and are used to kill people. Like that is their primary function. That's not, you're not going to use that weapon to go hunting. Like, so I mean, if you need that weapon to go hunting, you think you need to reevaluate your status as a hunter.
But if the Second Amendment was about protecting people against the government, right, which is what it was, shouldn't you be able to match fire with fire?
Yeah, it's like a tinfoil hat. Like there's always the conspiracy, like the government's out to get you. Like I don't know about that. That's not something that I'm worried about right now. What I'm worried about is thousands of people being killed senselessly and needlessly, and not just in schools and movie theaters and malls and things like that. So I mean that is the pressing problem to me, not whether or not the government is going to take over and shoot us up and stuff like that. So that's not my issue right now.
There is historical data to back that up, though. Hitler took the guns, Mao took the guns, Pol Pot took the guns. They all took the guns before they did all the killing, right? So isn't there a concern there?
Well, I think that the major concern is maybe we need to look at the President of the United States and what he's doing to try and consolidate his power and discredit the media and things like that. Those are the first things that happen before they take the guns. So, I mean, that's something that you're truly worried about. Maybe just to nip it in the bud right now. So
He made the statement, take the guns first, due process second. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I'd have to give that some more thought. But due process should happen first, probably, and that's the way that's the government set up. But yeah.
What do you think are some of the ways that Americans can deal with this problem?
Do they really need guns?
Well, their Second Amendment, I think they hold that pretty dear to them.
They have the gun culture, cut out the middleman. I can protect my home with a gun. Well, yeah, you can also protect your fridge from your family members in the middle of the night, trying to get a little snack in the middle of the night. You just suspect someone's in the house. You hear some rumbling, and people just reach for the gun right away, and just hot, short-tempered people with their guns, and they just reach for it right away without, thinking. There should be major background checks before being able to take a gun anywhere. They shouldn't be able to get them so easily. Shouldn't be able to get them under a certain age. Shouldn't be able to get them if you're sketchy looking.
The police need to have guns to be able to collect people's guns, right?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I think a lot of people are thinking that by taking away the guns, it's really just amounting to a monopoly on violence for the government, because they would end up having all the guns.
Well, any government needs to have a monopoly on violence. That's how government works. In order to have a nation, you need borders that you can protect. You need to have a state that controls a criminal justice system and is the only dispenser of justice, including, if you have it, the death penalty. Or if you have people who are vigilantes who take this responsibility on themselves, then you have chaos. So no government can exist with that, or should exist with that.
On the vigilante point, have you heard the statistic? Because I noticed a girl's sign saying "protect people, not guns." But the stat in the States that more people are actually saved with guns or protected with guns.
I think that's bullshit. That's not a realistic system. The statistics are that people who own guns are more likely to commit suicide. They're more likely to hurt somebody in the home with a gun than actually be in a place where they can do something about a crazy gunman. Think about what happened in Parkland, where you had an armed sheriff who made the decision not to go in with his gun and do that. And that was a person who theoretically was trained to do that.
But if there was a good guy there with the gun, he would have been able to stop it.
And he might have been shot by the police trying to get the bad guy. That never works well. I don't think I don't know any instances where that's actually been a thing. And
I think mainly because CNN doesn't talk about those types of instances.
I think mainly because it doesn't exist. You can bet that if the NRA or one of those organizations had a good example of that, we'd be hearing about it 24 hours a day. There's plenty of ridiculous news sites that would propound that over and over again if it was true. It's not. It doesn't exist.
Now, the controversial one seems to be the AR-15, but as far as I understand, there's around 3 million Americans who actually own AR-15s, and they're law-abiding, peaceful citizens, some of them. So you're advocating taking those away from them?
I think that the issue is really twofold. It's the amount of guns and how Americans cling to their guns, but I think also mental health is also tied into that. Clearly, anyone who's going to go out and commit these kind of atrocities clearly has mental health problems, and I think that that's swept under the rug, and I think that that is something that the government needs to also deal with, and I think that they need more background checks and mental health checks, and it should be really hard to get a hold of a weapon like this, and I think the government needs to ensure that that person is mentally capable of owning a weapon and not committing these atrocities.
Have you heard of the stats that most of these school shootings and things of that nature happen with people who are often on antidepressants, SSRI type of drugs. Would that not lead to the logical conclusion that we should focus on mental health and maybe what's going on in these people's minds as opposed to the thing they're holding in their hand?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think it's twofold. I think mental health definitely needs to be addressed. But again, I don't think that, why do you need to own an assault rifle? Like, why do you need to own a high-powered rifle? Like, what purpose does that serve, like, in your life, really?
I think you're one of those guys, huh? You're a pro-gun nut, huh?
I'm pro-gun. I should have told you that right from the top. Yeah. You can try to convince me otherwise. I mean.
No, I mean, I'm glad you're here. This is probably a good place to get educated. But you know, are you a Canadian citizen?
Yeah, I am.
And you're worried about the government taking away your right to own a weapon?
Well, here in Canada, it's a little bit different. It's incredibly difficult to get licensed to have a gun. Canadians are some of the most vetted people in the world when it comes to having to obtain a license, and I think it's.
All right, what do you have to do to get a gun? I didn't know that. I thought that you could get registered and you can shoot them at ranges and.
You have to take a course. You have to imply. No,
everybody should take a course. I've taken a course in the States. Sure. I've owned weapons, so I'm happy for people to have weapons.
You have to get 2 personal references that will be interviewed. You have to get written consent from your spouse. And they're introducing legislation now that makes it even more difficult on gun owners. That doesn't really affect criminals getting their hand on guns. It just makes it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to get guns.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, yeah. All the people who were committed these acts were law-abiding citizens before they did that.
And I heard outside that there was a bunch of these protesters trying to take away people's guns, and I wanted to come out here and challenge them.
So what are some of the points that you think is most important for these guys to understand here?
That having guns it's about protecting against tyranny. Mm-hmm. And if every dictatorship that has ever taken over has taken away people's guns. And it's the only way for us to protect ourselves from the government. And they're getting all into this, well, you don't need this many high capacity magazines, and you don't need high powered rifles and everything. That's not the point. I actually think that you need to match the government in firepower, because that's who it's about. It's not about, people, hunting or whatever. And I don't think people will admit that, and on the news they won't say that, we're afraid of the government. It's to protect against the government.
Well, a lot of people want to take away, in particular, the AR-15s, and I don't know that they understand that there's over 3 million Americans who own AR-15s who are peaceful, law-abiding citizens.
Gun is a tool. The gun is a tool, and it's the person that's using the tool that is the problem. They're slowly, it's like a frog in a pot. They're slowly inching their way, and the idea is to come after the guns, and then once they take away the guns, and they're going to do it one way or another. Once they take away the guns, then there's trouble. Mm-hmm. And if we don't think that we can turn into like Maoist China or Nazi Germany, we can. Mm-hmm. And that's people who do think that we can't are naive.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these people don't understand how is it that they're going to take away the guns. Men with guns, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to have, and that's like I was saying before. I want to be able to match the firepower of the government.
Mm-hmm. I think what these people don't understand is when they call for gun control, what they're actually calling for is a monopoly on violence for the government to get all the guns.
Yeah, exactly. A monopoly on violence. Yeah. So they can, and that's they're slowly but surely taking away with PC culture, identity politics. And going for the guns. It's coming in on us. And you can slowly in Europe with Lauren Southern, who was, they're allowing jihadis back into Canada and to the UK, and they stop her from entering because she's, they say she's a racist. Or it's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. All right, thank you for being a voice of reason amongst the insanity we're surrounded with.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll watch you on TV, man.
Oh, cool.
Oh, well, YouTube.
Yeah. All right.